Welcome back into Sports Drive. Once again, I'm Preston Moore. I am now joined by Coach Michael Mook of WT Softball. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you guys had a very successful start to the season this past weekend, going 4-0 in the tournament you guys were at. Now, you guys are hosting the WT Invitational this upcoming weekend. Tell us a little bit about that here in Canyon.
Yeah, we're excited. We got some good competition from the RMAC. We got Mesa, who's usually one of the top teams in the RMAC, coming. So that'll be a good challenge for us. I think we get to play them twice. So, those will be important games for us to come out and play well. But, it was a fun weekend last weekend, and I think it'd be fun to come out and watch us play.
How do you think, leading up to the beginning of the season is always a really big deal. How do you think that you guys prepared correctly to where you guys had, such a strong start to the season this past weekend?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time defensively this year. That was one of the things that we wanted to get better at from last year, and I think it really showed. I mean, I think our pitchers threw really well, but I think our defense really played well behind them too, and that really takes the pressure off the offense, and I really liked what we did last year for hitting, so it's kind of been a continuation of that. But defense is probably the biggest thing. We've spent a little bit more time on the defensive side of things and really locked in and been real picky on stuff, and that showed up in the games.
What players do you think you've seen, the most growth over the course of the off season and now into this season, that to where you can say this is a different softball player than they were last season?
Yeah, for returners, obviously Ruby Salzman had a really good opening weekend, but it's kind of the normal for her. She's a pretty good ball player. And as far as other players, I thought Julie Guzman played really well this last weekend. I thought she came out and hit the ball really well, and just this year compared to last year, she made some huge improvements in the offseason, and I think that definitely showed up on the field. But I could pretty much go down our whole roster. I feel like everybody played really well this weekend. So, it's a fun team to be a part of. It's a hard lineup to pitch to. I think everybody's putting the ball in the play hard and playing good defense.
It's one thing to play in a tournament like this where you have a bunch of different teams coming together in one spot. Normally in these tournaments, you're going somewhere else. You guys are hosting this upcoming weekend, the WT Invitational. What kind of a difference does that make for your team to play in a tournament where all of the games will be in Canyon?
There's no better place to play than Schaefer Park. So for us, it's nice to be at home. It's nice to be in our home field. It's nice to be able to sleep in our own beds tonight. Play in front of our fans. There's no better fan base than what we got here at WT. So for our kids, I'm excited. I'm excited for the freshmen to kind of get to see what it's really like playing at home here. And just we've talked about it before, but you really can't describe it until you get the opportunity to do it. But just being at home it's such an advantage, I think, for us.
What do you think? When you look at this entire season ahead of you, what are some goals of yours, some expectations that you guys have set for yourselves that you want to reach by the end of the season?
Yeah, the generic coaches talk answer is just, we want to make sure we get better every day. That's kind of our goal is to get better every day. But as far as long-term goals, we want to be one of the top teams in our conference. We want to get into the regionals and have a chance to maybe make it to a World Series. Obviously there's a lot of teams that are shooting for those same goals, but I feel like we have all the pieces that we need to do that. If we can stay healthy and just get hot at the right time of the year, then we know anything's possible.
Yeah. Now, in the WT Invitational coming up this weekend, 2 out of your first 3 games will be against Colorado Mesa. Are there any challenges that they present to you guys that you guys have been looking at specifically, knowing that you're going to face this team twice?
They're a good team. Yeah, I think, they're usually one of the teams that's in the region. So I think it'll be really good. I was excited to get a chance to have them at our tournament and get a chance to play them early in the season. I think it'll help us prepare us for our conference season too. Just our conference is so tough that if you don't play some tough teams early in the season, sometimes all of a sudden when you jump into conference play and you're playing one of the top teams, it's a shock a little bit to you. So I'm really excited to get to play Mesa. But, I think they're just very athletic all around. I think they're a well-coached team. So I think it's going to be a battle. I think we're going to have to come out and play with one of our better games.
Yeah, you mentioned your conference a few times. Angelo State, UT Tyler, Texas A&M Kingsville, all ranked teams in the Lone Star Conference. How do you prepare for such a gauntlet of conference play? Because not every sport has to deal with this at WT. There maybe are a couple other competitors that are ranked, maybe 1, maybe 2. You guys have 3 already that you're going to face. How do you prepare for this in conference play, knowing that conference play matters so much?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but it's fun. I mean, it's why teams from our region and our conference have traditionally done so well at the World Series. Usually they're one of the teams that's finishing in the top, if not winning it all, usually in the top two or three. Uh, so I feel like the hard part is getting there and getting through our region and getting through our conference. But once you make it there, then you're well prepared. So as far as how do we approach that, I think it's just what I said earlier: just get better every single day. You got to have the right people in the right places, and I feel like we definitely have that this year. I think we got a lot of depth, which we maybe didn't have as much depth last year. If something does come up and somebody ends up getting injured or something like that, we're still able to put a team on the field that's well prepared and is able to compete against any of the top teams in our conference.
Yeah, you guys, you mentioned depth. Depth is obviously an exciting thing to have going into a season like this. What are some other things that are exciting to you about this season in particular? Some things that maybe set this season apart from the rest?
Yeah, I mean, we're hitting the ball hard right now. I mean, I think we put up 10 or 12 home runs in our opening weekend, which is crazy in just 4 games. And I think our pitching staff is really good. I looked over our bullpen on the very first day of practice in the spring here, and I was like, wow, man, like we have a really good pitching staff. Every pitcher in our bullpen could probably be competing for a starting spot on any team in the country. So I think to have 5 pitchers that have that ability, it's a credit to our pitching coach. Coach Troutman does a really good job with our pitchers. To have that depth at pitcher is a luxury, especially now in our conference schedule where we're playing teams 3 times instead of 2. To have that extra arm in the rotation that is just a different look for teams. We got to be a hard team to match up against.
Mm-hmm. When you are playing teams 3 times instead of 2, what kind of a difference does that make for your players in the midst of a series?
Yeah, I think when you're playing teams 3 times instead of 2, I think for us, I think it's going to give us an advantage because at some point we're going to see the same pitchers again. Like I said, I don't think there's very many teams that are 5 deep and five good pitchers deep. I think a lot of teams are probably got a 1, 2, maybe a third pitcher that they can throw a little bit, but on that third game, you're probably going to see somebody that you've already seen, and hopefully that's the strength of ours, that we're going to be able to use that information from the first time we played them and how we prepare against them and be able to really take that and use it to our advantage when we get that second time through their pitching staff. And I think for us approaching their hitters and things, just being able to give them a lot of different looks and just when they are getting onto one pitcher style, being able to switch it up. And I mean, even at the top levels nowadays, like it's hard to just have one really good pitcher. And teams are really good at preparing for you. And especially in our conference, we got a lot of good coaches that are really good at preparing. So if you just have one really good pitcher, they'll set their pitching machine up and they'll do all their work to prepare for that pitcher. But when you have pitchers that are very different, that definitely, just looking at it from a strategy point, if it was me trying to prepare for us, it'd be hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the goal, or a goal of many coaches, is for, if I were preparing for my team, that it would be a difficult week to prepare for. Coach, thank you for joining once again. The WT Invitational starts this weekend. It's at Schaefer Park out in Canyon, Texas. The Lady Buffs will start it off at 1:30 on Friday tomorrow in Canyon. Coach, thanks once again for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after the break with more Sports Drive, so stick around.